Let's talk about Russell Brand. There's stuff going on and there's wisdom to be gleaned. Let's see what we can learn from this situation. So recently, Russell Brand has been in the news a lot. I don't know if you've seen it. Everywhere on my YouTube front page is Russell Brand this, Russell Brand that. People chiming in and throwing in their opinions. He's been accused of some pretty gnarly stuff, and he has denied all of it. And he's been demonetized off of YouTube, and the government has stepped in and said we need to remove this guy and silence him. And so people are trying to silence his voice. And Russell Brand has been very helpful for me in just like thinking through different things, and his perspective has been awesome. And so I've really appreciated what he has done. And I'm not going to get super into is it right what's going on with him and how do we discern that, but I want to talk about what we as young men can learn from Russell Brand, who's a little older than us. And even if you're younger than me, as you look forward in your life, what can we learn from this situation? And here's the key point. The key thing I want to talk about is that if we want to have a prophetic voice in the world, we need to have a prophetic life. And so Russell Brand is a new man now, as he has dealt with addiction and different things. But in his younger days, he lived a promiscuous life. I think very famously, we all know Russell Brand was up to some shenanigans. And I'm not going to condemn him for that, right? He is transformed. He's a new person. But I think he would even say, looking back on his young self, he would tell himself, don't mess around with that, right? Stay away from those different temptations and vices. And so as we young men look forward into our lives, what can we learn from him? And I would say the lesson here is that we need to be living above reproach. And so in the Bible, it tells us that elders should be above reproach, which just basically means that no one should have any charge against us that can hold water. Like if someone says something about us, everyone else would be like, what? That's crazy. There's nothing to that, right? These allegations against Russell Brand, people are like, I don't know, maybe they are true because of the way he lived and his reputation. Who knows what kind of man he was, right? But if we as men can live above reproach and avoid those sorts of promiscuous behaviors, when someone comes against us with an allegation, they can do the deepest study into our lives and not find anything, right? There's tons of proverbs about avoiding the promiscuous woman, right? To stay clear of the street where she tries to seduce you. And so as a young man, my advice to you would be to not fool around with women. None of them, right? Just stay away from it, especially in this culture where the lines are gray and you don't want to be, caught with your pants down, so to speak, right? You don't want to have misinterpreted something or have someone say something against you and say, no, it was consensual. But like, how do you define that, and how does that hold up in court, right? Like if one word against another word, it's a tough situation to navigate. So if you're a man, just stay away from that whole situation. There's a great solution to this. It's to marry one woman and to only have sex with one woman, right? That's the wisdom in the Bible. It's archaic and it's old school, but I think it's more relevant now than ever in our modern culture, especially if you're going to want to live a stable prophetic life, right? No one can bring a charge against you. If you're like, hey man, I got married when I was 21. I've been with the same woman my whole life. What are you going to say, right? And so that is a nugget of wisdom that we can learn from Russell Brand. Is to stay faithful to our wives and to get married young if you can, right? The Bible teaches, it says if you're burning with passion, then get married. That's not the only reason to get married, but it is a reason, right? And so if we're going to stay pure and we're going to avoid promiscuity, then it's helpful to be married, to buckle down, to take on that responsibility, and to move forward in that way. And so I'm hoping the best for Russell Brand, and I hope he's innocent, and I hope he gets to keep speaking the truth that he is finding in the world. But for us as young men, as we look forward in our lives, that is something that we can plan against, right? We can have contingencies. We can set up our lives in a way that is in line with wisdom so we don't have to deal with allegations like that later on. Live in a way that nothing can stick to you, right? Live in an honorable way. Live above reproach.